What's up, Magic players? It's Doyle, your host here on DoylePrimeMTG. I've never really built a Vorthos deck before, but this is my take on one. Hades and Persephone, represented by Ravos and Tymna, unleash the underworld in this versatile, easy-to-pilot Vorthos build.
Forests, islands, mountains, plains, and swamps. The multiverse is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. There is a tingling in the spine, a faint sensation, as if a distant memory, of walking from plane to plane. Our lives have been forever changed, as if by magic. Embark with me on this journey to eternity. Experience the true power of mind over matter, as we ignite your spark and traverse into the magic multiverse.
I've wanted to build a cool Orzhov deck themed around the other side for quite some time. When I was playing Kitchen Table Modern, I had an Orzhov humans deck that was cool. Humans buffed other humans and generated human tokens, and then Zathra Necromancers would replace my dying humans with zombies, and whenever stuff died, I had High Priests summon demons. But this deck has brought the other side of that coin to EDH. The god and goddess of the underworld, Hades, Soul Tender, and Persephone the Weaver. The goddess in charge of the fates, spinning the thread of fate herself. The god of the underworld, with his ferryman, Athreos, and the hound, Konoros, as he guards and soon unleashes the wrath of the underworld upon the unsuspecting. For strategy reasons, we will want to play Tymna the Weaver first, almost always. She's our biggest card advantage engine. For 1 white-black, she's a 2/2 human cleric with partner and lifelink, and at the beginning of our post-combat main phase, we may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents dealt combat damage this turn. If we do, we draw X cards. We have a bunch of small evasive creatures to keep this card advantage online. We can be petty with our removal to prevent people from wanting to repeatedly kill Tymna. We also have the backup plan of letting her go to the grave and allowing Ravos to bring her back to us, so we don't have to pay too much in commander tax. Hello flavor. Ravos Soul Tender is our top end, allowing our already successful game plan to flourish, or even picking us up from a bad start. For 3 white-black, he is a 2/2 human cleric with flying that boosts all our other creatures by +1/+1, and has, at the beginning of our upkeep, we may return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. This repeat value will allow us to utilize some sacrifice synergy to gain more card advantage and plow through our deck to find our secret ritual that breaks the underworld. Also, it's worth noting that his buff, though insignificant sometimes, can actually be an easy way out of a very grindy game. So as I like to build my video the same way as I build my board state, I'd actually like to take a look at card draw before we ramp in this video. The best start in this deck is to play 3 evasive creatures in the first 2 turns and drop Tymna for a turn 3 draw 3. This sets us up to ramp super nicely and keeps our land drops flowing. Changeling Outcast and Tormented Soul can't be blocked. Eyecatcher, Healer's Hawk, and Segovian Angel all have flying. We can even have some colorless evasive creatures with Gingerbrute and Hope of Ghirapur. Next up, we have our Shadow Suite. These shadow creatures fit perfectly on theme and can only block and be blocked by other creatures with shadow. Soltari Foot Soldier, Soltari Visionary, Dowthy Cutthroat, Dowthy Ghoul, Dowthy Warlord, Dowthy Trapper, and Nether Trader. Each will give us some guaranteed combat damage, helping us draw cards, as well as providing a few other perks that are in line with our strategy and totally on flavor. We also have some evasive hate bears with Topplegeist, Hushbringer, Archon of Emeria, Aven Mind Sensor, Kinjali's Sunwing, Archangel of Tithes, and the big 3-headed dog himself, Konoros, Hound of Athreos. It should be noted that both Hushbringer and Konoros should be removed from our battlefield when we try to combo off. Also in our evasive creature lot, we have Twilight Prophet and Rankle Master of Pranks. Each of these will provide us with solid card advantage, incidental damage, and combat damage triggers. Even though some of these have control elements, they do serve their primary purpose as our otherworldly army that generates us card advantage. This is a pretty good example of finding bridges between card functionality, especially while keeping on theme. Since we are still on the subject of card draw, I'd like to include Vampiric Rites and Night's Whisper. There are a couple of competitively costed draw spells that keep us on curve. Mentor of the Meek and Skullclamp can each help us draw a bunch of cards from our tiny invasive creatures. Finally, we have an incredible engine piece with Tevesh Zat, Doom of Fools. He generates tokens, draws us cards, is a sacrifice outlet, and has this nasty ultimate, making him really easy bait. Next, let's look at our ramp spells that we'll be casting after we get our Tymna and tiny evasive creatures on the battlefield. First up, we have some artifact ramp, with Soul Ring, Fractured Power Stone, Mind Stone, Orzhov Signet, Prismatic Lens, Skyclave Relic, and Gilded Lotus. Mannequin is an especially nice mana rock in this deck because the body can be abused by our sacrifice and graveyard interactions. Keeping with the tax theme, Smothering Tithe can ramp us up with some luxurious amounts of treasure to keep up with our accelerating pace. We have so much card draw in this deck and such a low curve, that's all the room we really have for ramp. So let's move on to controlling the board. First up, we have Self-Control, starting with Entomb and Buried Alive, which tutor Graviers to our graveyard. And Diabolic Intent will allow us to sacrifice a creature to tutor a card to our hand. Veilstone Amulet will protect our creatures by giving them hexproof anytime we cast a spell. Selfless Spirit can sacrifice itself to give our board indestructible. And Alseid of Life's Bounty can help to protect a single target. Next, we have 3 permanents that help Ravos dig up the graveyard, with Athreos, God of Passage, Luris of the Dream Den, and Oversold Cemetery. Working especially well with Luris, Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead will be continually able to reanimate creatures that are higher in CMC. Reanimate will also let us recur these large CMC creatures, while Volrath's Stronghold and Hall of Heliod's Generosity help to put specific permanents from our graveyard on top of our library. To control our opponent's side of the board, we have some solid removal spells. Despark, Dismember, and Ashes to Ashes each provide solid value for our removal, typically trading up. We can force sacrifices from our opponents with Martyr's Bond and Michiko Konda, triggering by us losing permanents or being dealt damage respectively. Also, Alms Collector prevents all our opponents from bursts of card draw and keeps us on pace with our opponents. Lastly, we have some Wraths, with Austere Command, Fumigate, and my personal favorite, Winds of Abandon. I cannot talk up Winds enough, especially against players who use loads of mana dorks. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Our big shebang, closing out the game, is a 25-cent uncommon from before dinosaurs existed in the multiverse, Leonin Relic Warder. I know it doesn't look like much, and that's the point. It's supposed to look like a low-budget removal piece, but this gets nasty with 3 particular enchantments in our deck. Do you remember them? Well, 2 we've already talked about are Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead. Each of these combo with Leonin Relic Warder in the following way. So, in the ideal scenario, Relic Warder is in our graveyard, and for this example, we will say that Animate Dead is entering the battlefield. We can target Leonin Relic Warder and return it to the battlefield. Now we will trigger Leonin Relic Warder's Enter the Battlefield ability. This will target our Animate Dead, exiling it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, it will cause us to sacrifice our Leonin Relic Warder that we animated with it. On the leaving the battlefield trigger, Leonin Relic Warder will then return Animate Dead to the battlefield. Now we're back where we started. We will then present a loop in which this process repeats, giving us unlimited sacrifice, death, creature ETBs, and enchantment ETB triggers. The third of these enchantments that combo with Leonin Relic Warder is Necromancy. And I love Necromancy because even though we can't recast it from the graveyard with Luris, we can cast it at instant speed. That means that right at the perfect moment when all of our opponents are tapped out, we can cast Necromancy for 3 mana, return Leonin Relic Warder from our graveyard to the battlefield, and start this loop out of nowhere. Now we will include 4 more cards meant to turn this into a game closer. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Tormod the Desecrated, and Sir Conrad the Grim will each cause our opponents to suffer a death by 1,000 cuts, or in Tormod's case, 1,000 zombies. Also, another backup way that I've included to close out the game while people block out the combo is Pontiff of Blight. This usually comes out of nowhere when people think that they have thwarted our combo. We then get to turn mana into direct gain drain of life each time we cast a spell, and our tiny little evasive creatures now have an entirely new purpose. For lands, we will include Shizo, Death's Storehouse, to give a creature Intimidate. Gyre Reach Sanctum and Mikokoro, Cinder of the Sea, will both help us to churn through the decks. We will also include a slew of mana-fixing lands with Command Tower, Ash Barrens, Godless Shrine, Isolated Chapel, Orzhov Basilica, Scoured Barrens, Tainted Field, and Temple of Silence, leaving us with room for 10 plains and 10 swamps. That about wraps it up for this deck tech. I hope you enjoyed the video. You'll find the link to the full deck list on architect.com in the description, complete with a maybe board. Let me know in the comments below if you would take this deck in a different direction, or if there are any key includes that I missed. Cheers, and happy casting. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button, and also share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like these, or hear me ramble about how to navigate this magic multiverse, go ahead and click that subscribe button to stay up to date on the latest from me, Doyle Prime, and the happenings throughout Magic the Gathering. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you all next video.